Ziva for Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everyone. Let's see what we have here. Stream status good. Who's in? Teresa Lynch, Neon Prince, Cupie got here early. Dark Wolf's Den, Carolyn Thranen, Freeman's Cryptoverse, Jungleistic Explorationals, Ivanel Quieros, The Fifth World, Claire Jane, Wendy Hoeg, Odin Lush. I think that's everyone. Ronan the Voice, Plume, lots of people. Lots of people here today. Kai, Lucas, Zachary. Odin Lush, how does Eva find all this stuff? Half of it is just from watching TV and looking at Reddit, and about half, maybe even more this time, is from commenters who comment on my channel and come up with stuff. And some of it I had seen before, but then they come up with it and it's changed even further from when I saw it. I had a dream that Once Upon a Timeline was a middle school teacher. Not in this lifetime, anyways. This is the most teaching I do here. I did put educational as my type of video channel. I was at a loss of what to calling it, so there it is. It's a documentary. Okay, so where are we? I guess I can put this down. And speaking of, there was a lot of Emmys this time. Last week was kind of sparse. I was out of it. I was sleepy, and I hadn't collected very many. But this week kind of makes up for it. I found a lot, and you guys found a lot. So this is another one of those ones where I just feel like this timeline has a sense of humor. And it's remembering Boston's great molasses flood of 1919. I'd be surprised if any of you heard of it. I sure have it. This is from Stand Up for Freedom, a very regular commenter on my channel, and he's got a lot of them that are going up tonight. This is just the first one. The Great Molasses Flood tore through the city's north end and deposited so much gooey residue that locals claim they could still smell the molasses on warm days decades later. So apparently there was this giant tank of molasses that had 2.3 million gallons in it, and it popped and tore through downtown Commercial Street. Let's see. Surging molasses was shockingly destructive. It moved at 35 miles per hour, and it was sufficient to rip buildings off their foundations, snap the support girders from an elevated train track, smashed multiple houses. The property damage alone totaled $100 million in today's dollars. The waves of molasses moved so quickly and so forcefully that anyone who was unlucky enough to be in its way didn't stand much of a chance. They were either knocked over or crushed. 21 lives dead. Another 150 people suffered injuries. The nature of the molasses made rescue attempts trickier. Anyways, it's just pretty weird. Check into it. I've never heard of it. Very strange. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you would totally hear on the History Channel when you were a kid because it's ridiculously strange. I heard about it after Emmy. Shari D. Panda Dragon stayed up late. Good job. How big was this thing? I think they said it was like 50 feet tall or something. Let me see if I can find that thing again. Steel tank was 50 feet tall, 90 feet across, and capable of holding 2.5 million gallons of molasses. Apparently it had just been filled recently, and then it just started popping. Like the rivets started popping out. Witnesses later recalled hearing a noise like gunfire as the tank's rivets popped and the steel sides ripped open. Suddenly, 26 million pounds of molasses were tearing down Commercial Street in a 15-foot wave. Water Bearer, hey, just finished your live stream. Molasses, Silver, E55. Yeah, it was the Great Molasses Flood, the Boston's Great Molasses Flood of 1919, where 21 people died from a giant flood of molasses. Anyway, just weird. A lot of weird history in this timeline. Okay, so that's that one. I don't know what I was looking for in this one. Oh, I think it was rib cage stuff. Yep. A lot of people are talking about this one where there's this kind of a loop thing here. I mean, we've been talking about that for a while, but it seems like now it's pretty standard on most rib cages. I think there was a video on it recently. Somebody did a video on it recently, but it's not really new for me. I do think it's more standardized. Somebody was saying that there's residual in some of these images, but I wasn't finding them. For me, the front of the rib cage was just open. There was no sternum bone there. It was just cartilage. So I'm not finding my old rib cage. Okay, this one's weird. This is from Stand Up for Freedom also. Blue M&Ms, Gatorade, and Jello linked to healing spinal cord injuries. Now, first, I just want to mention that this Jello here is not my Jello. Here's the history of Jello. For me, there was no dash. It was just Jello, and there was no giant O either. This one looks kind of close, but you take out that dash. But you can see since 1945 that dash has been in there. So, long before I was born. This one is pretty close, but it shouldn't have that dash. When I saw this, I'm like, what the hell with the dash? Jello linked. Looks like dash 0. Okay, anyway, no dash for me. So you can check out the science on here. The sudden influx of ATP destroys healthy cells in the spinal cord injury, making initial damage far worse. If they injected oxidized ATP into the injury, they found that they could block the effect of ATP, allowing the injured rats to recover. But then you don't want to be injecting stuff into the spine after a spinal injury. So they discovered that this dye, this blue dye, BBG, the brilliant blue dye we find in our favorite foods, could thwart the function of PTX7. You can read this whole thing. It's kind of complicated. But basically, if they have the creature eat a bunch of this blue dye, apparently it protects the spine from excessive injury. And weirdly enough, the rat turns blue. This is kind of a recurring theme I've seen lately. It used to be that if you ate blue dye, you wouldn't be blue because your body would digest the blue and it probably wouldn't be blue anymore after digestion. But now it seems like you really are what you eat because if you eat a color, now you can turn that color. And this rat, you can see, has a lot of blue on it. So another just weird thing. Blue M&Ms, Gatorade, and Jello linked to healing spinal cord injuries. So they're suggesting that people consume this blue dye if they have a spinal cord injury because currently there's not much else that can be done. Just weird. Check out teardrop grapes. All right, let's do it. Teardrop grapes. Images. Oh, that's funny. Those look kind of creepy. Yeah, I don't know of those. They don't really look like grapes. They don't really look like teardrops either. They look like fingers. Huh. Well, it looks like there's two kinds of them. There's the pointy fingered kind and the nubby fingered kind. Oh, these are moon drop grapes. You just can't make this stuff up. Let's see. See if there's... Well, this is the Creperie, so they're going to say it's amazing, but... They're so sweet and fun to eat, you may find yourself weeping with joy. All right, that's the grape industry, so they might be a tad biased. Let's see. Witch fingers. They got a bunch of weird names. Old-fashioned. They were made via cross-pollination. Years of careful breeding by David Kane, a man who spent his life traveling the globe making new grapes. Apparently, there's a lot of people like that who have been dedicated their lives to making weird plants and animals that are suddenly all turning up right now. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, I think it was Uni Mooney who did the thing on the rib cage. Well, different people will notice things at different times, so. Junk food for its healing properties, exactly. That blue dye is now actually good for you. Actually, it would be kind of cool if junk food started becoming healthy because it does taste good. Some of the pointy ones are called witchy grapes. Yeah, I saw one of them said witch fingers. That sounds about right, witch fingers. Sign me up for the blue dye healing injury, spinal. Yeah, I want the M&M treatment. That sounds fairly tasty. I want the blue M&Ms, please. When I was a little kid, my mom, I don't know where she heard it, but she somehow heard that sodas were good for you if you were sick and it would help you recover. And I mean, looking back on it, it's ridiculous, but every time we got sick, I'd be like, I want my sodas, because we weren't allowed to have sodas at home any other time. So I would make her go buy me sodas. I'm sure that it did not help me get better, but they still tasted good. Effing bananas growing upside down. Yep, that one's been well covered by many YouTube channels. I agree, they did not used to grow upside down. My hand's palm became orange when I was around 5 years old. I only drank orange juice. Huh. Yep. I've been eating out unhealthy stuff for the last 40 days and I lost weight. Try the crap food diet. I don't know, I can't figure out, I'll eat all healthy, but I won't always feel better, and sometimes I'll eat junk and I'll feel better. I haven't figured it out lately. It used to make more sense, but I can't figure out what is good for this current body so easily. Now that November 31st never existed, have the people from the old reality ceased to exist, vanished into thin air, or they were just born on November 30th or December 1st. Can't tell you. I don't think I ever had a November 31st. Let's see. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. Yeah, see, it was always in here, so November was only 30 days in November for me. So those 31st born people, well, we've heard a lot of things about people's dates and birthdays and stuff changing, so I mean, it wouldn't really surprise me if they just shifted by one day. Now that I'm eating healthy, my weight is going up. Don't ask me. Everything is like upside down world here. How long have Squabbits existed? I've never heard of those. Let's check them things out. Squabbits. Squabbits. All right. I don't see them being real. They're saying it's just Hybrid race created by Steve Williams. The main antagonist of season 1 episode. Squabbits. Do squabbits exist? Oh, potential new animal species. Ah, interesting, because it looks like it was, in 2013. That's interesting, because if you look over here, it's a character in this show, Brickleberry or something. Squabbits are a hybrid race created by Steve Williams. And they are like a squirrel. But if you go back here, they have, maybe they named it after the show, but whatever. First comes the weird myth, and then you've got some weird squirrel. A squirrel-like rabbit in the forest of Dean, England. Photographic evidence has ended speculation. So, apparently, we have a squirrel rabbit. Strange-looking gray squirrel over the past 3 months have raised nothing more than eyebrows. However, recent photographic evidence and further sightings have put an end to speculation, confirming the existence of a small rodent-like mammal that indeed somewhat resembles both the gray squirrel and the European rabbit. Okay, so it's a squirrel rabbit, Squabbit. Discovery of a new mammal species in the UK is extremely rare, and the case is being treated with extreme caution. All right, so this was in, it was a whiles back. I just saw it here. A couple years ago. Oh, April Fools. Oh, is this on April 1st? Maybe it's a joke. Yeah, see, look, comments are on April 1st, so this might be a joke. Yeah, and it does look like an ordinary squirrel, so. Let's see. Squabbits. Okay, so I'm not really seeing evidence that they're real because this is... It does look like a maybe Photoshop job then. Okay, if this was an April 1st, I'm not going to put much stock into it. A squirrel that has lost or had its tail cut off is referred to as a squabbit. So we might get that eventually, but I don't think there's clear evidence that it's here yet. Don't be messing with the real squabbits just because the world's ending. There's no reason to get depressed about it. Huh, that's a weird one. Yeah. I'm going to look at it just a little bit more, but it does not look like it's there. Okay, I'm going to call not quite yet, at least, on that one. I do not think it is there. On your first research, scroll down, it said a squirrel that has lost its tail. Yes, that's quite possible. I don't think I've ever seen a squirrel without a tail, but... Cabbits. I know I heard about that like last year or something. Cabbit. Try to remember what that was. Cat, rabbit, fictional. I think what you're going to find here is a bunch of like weird shaped cats and stuff. All right. So, yeah, I don't think we have cabbits yet. Oh, there's that. Okay, this one. Okay, this is from Esther Anders, and she brought it to my attention to take a little peek at Washington again. See if I can find a good image of him, because he's okay. This one shows it fairly well. He's starting to get shoulder over here now. His shoulder has peeled away. The mountain is starting to peel away from the people behind him. So we kind of predicted it here that he was stepping out of the mountain, and now you can see right here that there is a separate shoulder. It's not all glued on to the back anymore. So I think we've got it coming here. There's the shoulder. So we've got Washington's shoulder. Let's see. There was some other things. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention also was the hair here is now complete. For a while, we only had good hair on Washington, but this was just kind of like rock. But no, the hair is looking pretty good here now and here. The only person who has rock hair now is Lincoln. That hair is looking decent. There's a little rough hair here, but only Lincoln now has the rough hair. The others have regular looking hair, so that's a change. I think that the hair here has just been developing rather recently. So somebody commented before that these two look a lot lower. Also, there was one other one that I saw was, and this was also mentioned by Esther, is the angles of the heads have changed. And this one angles more in towards Lincoln now. Let me see if I can find that. There's some images where they look like they're almost kissing or something because their faces are so angled towards each other. See if I can find one like that. See, like here, he's totally hidden back there. It was not that much before. Of course, now that I want those images, I can't find them. But there's, from certain angle, these two are so close together now, they just look like they're rubbing noses. And I think because the angles have changed so much. Not really seeing it, but of course it was there when I wanted to see it. Okay, this one almost kind of shows it, but they were a little closer together in some of them. But there's two where they look like they're going to rub noses or something, and I just don't remember those angles like that. So anyway, I think continuing changes on Mount Rushmore. Big surprise. Is that really Mount Rushmore? Oh, that's like a replica. Okay. Weird. So you can see the roughed out area goes all the way down now. So it's making space for them to climb out of the mountain. I think we're going to see that happening. What's this? Okay, anyways. The cabin thing is real. I from last I checked, it was just weird, misshapen cats. Like they look weird, and so they called them Squabbits, but they're still cats. I mean, they're not actually having rabbit DNA in them. I mean, yes, there's a whole bunch of new weird cat breeds, so yes, I could say that's probably an Emmy, but the mountains behind them are gone again. Yeah, okay. Now for me, they originally, oh, here's an image. See, there's the image I was looking at. See how close their noses look from that angle? That just looks wrong. And Washington is looking way off. That just looks weird. Okay, so for me, originally, they were lined up kind of at the same height in the middle of a mountain. So they had a bunch of mountain above them. And slowly they've gotten so that they're kind of at the top of the mountain. But from some angles, you could see a mountain behind them. Let's see if that's still the case, though. Because, yeah, there were some angles where you'd see this whole mountain behind them. And I think you had to be looking from above. So, yeah, see here, there's this mountain way behind. Whether that you still can see that from some angle. remains to be seen. But I thought that was kind of how it tricked us, because they'll, oh, well, you just assume that you saw the mountain behind there and got confabulated it with the mountain being taller. But no, that wasn't how it was. See, look at the angles on that. That doesn't look right anymore. I think there's been some recent changes on those angles of where the heads are angled. All right. I want a view from on high. Let's see if I can find it. There's probably some kind of change going on, because whenever you can't find an image of something... Oh, okay. That is a lot less mountain than I remember. A lot less mountain. This mountain went up really high before. Look at that. Yeah, it was up high, like way up here. So now there's just a little bit there. Okay, yeah, good find. You're right. The mountain behind is really shrunk down. Last I checked, it was like, like this distance up again up here, so that they would look like they're in the middle. God, it looks weird now. Really weird. Do you think one day he'll just walk off? Yeah, maybe really slow. Maybe eventually we'll get like Lord of the Rings, the giant standing statues. I mean, look at Statue of Liberty. I mean, she's walking now too. Just, it's a trip. Somebody had commented the foot gets higher and higher. That back foot is flipped way up now. And of course, they always shop. The reality always keeps you informed. And the recent way it did that was there was a story that was circulating about how somebody climbed up onto the top of the Statue of Liberty and was hanging out under the foot. And then there was all these images of the foot, so that everybody has been inoculated to the fact that the foot's up now. Anyway, I'll jump ahead to the statue one, because I had some other stuff to cover on statue. Okay, one of the things I wanted to cover was... she's got 2 strips of dark. I know Unimundi covered that nose had a dark spot on it, but a lot of the images have this line at the throat now that looks really weird to me. I've never seen that before looking, and you can see how many images have it, even different angles. The other thing that's weird is this crown looks really different to me just recently. I do not remember these slots here curving up and around like this. It looks like a spaceship. I remember them being straight and a little smaller. They weren't as tall. I remember now the spikes look really plain right now. I remember there being some little bars and stuff in there. At least, a few months ago there were. I don't remember them being all plain like that with this huge tall slots in here. So that has changed for me, and I would say fairly recently. These spikes were just not... It looks weird now, the plain spikes. The spikes had more ornateness to them. So, there you go on that one. And I think I mentioned before the hair has some lines in it now. For a while it was completely just like rough with no texturing of lines. Joink. Let's get a back view so you can... feet. So you can see how much her foot's picked up. Somebody did comment on this. I forgot who it was. But the foot gets higher and higher up. I think this is the one where the person... See, here's the woman scaled the Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July in what appears to be a protest. And they made a big thing about the person hanging out under this foot. Look at how high this foot is now. In fact, if you look at this one, and then you look at this one, it almost looks like it's 2 different images. I mean, this looks too high. And look, it's all blurry. That's a little bit better. That one's blurry also. Huh. I mean, I guess they could say they didn't have a good camera when it was happening and nobody was prepared for a crazy person up there. But anyway, the foot is very high now. So that's the other thing I wanted to cover for that one. Wendy Hoke was it you that did the high foot? Yeah. I mean, it just keeps getting higher. So I've said it before, but it's higher now than the last time I said it. Her chin looks really square. No feminine features in her anymore. Yeah, she looks kind of troubled to me now, too. Like, the face looks a little concerned. And I've noticed that on the Mount Rushmore ones. The faces look a little bit troubled. Is it missing points? I was thinking that it might be. I was thinking it had longer and maybe more points. Like, maybe 1 or 2 more points. But I can't be sure on that one. I remember the spikes turned somehow thick. I'm not sure what that means. To me, she looked pregnant somehow. We've commented before. She's a lot. She's not skinny anymore. She used to be kind of more elegant. She's more matronly. Currently, she's got more pudge on her. Gregorio Cordoba, hi from Mexico. ¿Cómo está usted? That's how much Spanish I know. Maybe a few more words. Welcome. They covered the story about giant footprints on the bottom of the ocean floor. Yeah, I saw that. They were saying that there's these weird, I think they were 13-inch deep, looks like footsteps, but they're basically indents in a vaguely footstep pattern. And they're trying to figure out what created those. They said there shouldn't be any large animals that make foot-like imprints that low down. So who the heck knows? A point for each continent. That's interesting. Let's see. Let me just go back to that. Head. Statue of Liberty head. One, well, that's not really it, though. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I thought that I remembered that there were 8. Actually, it was Mandela Affected had commented a while back that this changes a lot, and I thought I remembered him saying that there were 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now there's 7, so 1 less. Yeah, it's not like hugely different, but I do think that I remember him saying there were 8. That's not anything I would swear on my life, but it just looks wrong now. See, look at her face there. She just looks, I mean, that's not really her, but look at there. She just looks troubled, and there's kind of like wrinkles up here, wrinkles on the brow. Up close photography, look at it, just she looks upset there. You can really see that black line now. What's going on with her face? It looks like there's like rivet pock marks all over it too. See, what's all this? It looks like she's gotten stapled on her face. Huh, that's weird. Don't remember that. The eyes look kind of rolled back too. The whole image is she's been kind of masculine for a while for me, but I don't remember her having staple face problems. All right, none of these other images are really showing it though, so maybe I just maybe these images aren't good enough. There's something about the eyes though that is tripping me out. They're very they're not easy to see. It looks like they're blank in the eyes or something. Yeah, that's really getting me. You just look, you can't really see them. This one's the best one. It looks like there's something off with the eyes big time on that one. You can't really see them. I remember the eyes being very reasonably expressive and visible. There's so many images now where you can hardly see the eyes. Yeah, that's weird. There's something fishy with those eyes, definitely. Yeah, the eyes don't match. I agree with you there. This side looks kind of like her eyebrows all wrinkled down and stuff. Yeah, Wendy Hoag. I was going to say the same thing. A lot of other statues have in my old timeline, they always did the eyes as just smooth orbs because that's what the real eye, it has the coloring, but it's just a round dome. So they would just do it like that. In this timeline, they're carving in the pupil lines and stuff like that. So a lot of the old Greek statues have these striking eyes. In my timeline, none of the statues had that. They always just did them as blank orbs. So she's actually looking more like my old statues for my old timeline, whereas all the other statues are looking strangely carved out in the eyes. Silver E55. Was her foot always elevated? I thought originally it was flat to the ground. Yes. Yes, it used to be flat. We covered that a couple weeks ago, maybe. That's a big one that she's stepping. I was just saying that she slowly steps more and more. I mean, if this keeps up, she's going to be on one foot soon or tap dancing. Shari D, her left eye is somehow punched in. Yes, yeah, I know what you're saying. I can't quite say. Look at that. I can't quite say what it is, but there's something definitely off with that eye. There, it's just blank. What's going on with the eyes? I mean, if this is the lid here, it's like her eye is barely open. And then, okay, I covered last time that in that current timeline, she had repair done to the eye here and the nose. And so Unimundi had that video where there's this black spot in the nose. Well, at the same time in this timeline, also this eye here got this black smudge. But I think it goes beyond that because it's not just that there's a smudge. It's just the whole shape of both eyes look off quite a bit. They're all fuzzed out. You can't really even see you can't even see what's going on in there. Look at that. No, not right. Life Matrix did a video where she was breakdancing. Yeah, really. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen with her next. Sleeves more wrinkled. All of the wrinkles are different for me than they were, and they regularly change. But the other thing I really noticed was, for me, her arm looks so long now compared to her body. I just don't remember. It looks like she's got a really long arm now. I don't think that my arm would be that long. I don't think it was that long before. It looks strange to me. I mean, part of it might be the flame, but nevertheless, it looks different to me. Okay, so anyways, enough of that one. Let's see, where was I? Mount Rushmore. We've covered Mount Rushmore. All right. More. Okay, there's that weird image I was looking for. I must have found it already. All right, this one is really weird. This one, somebody just posted this on my comments, and it was about the transformer owl. I thought at first that this person was joking or writing mumbo jumbo, but no, this is real. And the person who commented was TGVGYC space ZXX. So Tigvijik is how I pronounce that. Okay, so this owl can make these different shapes according to the threat level. So say it sees a small animal, then it'll puff up its feathers and act real big. But if it sees a big animal, then it turns sideways and actually squishes in its face so it looks like a stick. I guess the idea is if it sees a big animal, it's going to hide. So this is what it kind of looks like normally, which is already weird. And now you're going to see on this video, it's going to suck in its face, and it's going to look really, really weird. So that's what it does. It sucks in its face and turns sideways. So, I mean, I thought that this might be Photoshop, but there's a fair number of videos of it doing something like this. This is the most extreme one. And I wonder if maybe a tad of Photoshop was being done, but nevertheless, it has this ability to do this. Now, somewhere in here was, okay, here's what it does when it sees a smaller animal threading it. It puffs itself out like this. And then it floofs up its back wings and tail to scare things off. And there it is, its normal state. So this is just one freaking weird owl. Can't believe I never heard of it. Absolutely can't believe that I've never seen anything like that before. See, it's turning sideways to look like a stick, and it's actually sucking its face in. Look at that thing. So there's some other images. So there's another one that did it. It starts out like this. Then it sucks in its face. So it's supposed to be looking like a tree stump or something. Anyway, it's just weird. What happened to its skull? Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going on, but they say it's just pulling in its feathers or something. Let me see if I can find any more info on that. I just saw that like a few hours ago. Somebody just posted it. Like I said, when I first saw it, I'm like, what? I thought it was Photoshop, but now I think that I mean, there's a whole bunch of images of it, and it says that they can do that on the wiki, so. Apparently, more than one of these kinds of owls can do this, too. It's found in a band across Africa between the Sahara and the equator. And there's all the countries that it's in, a fair number of them. When faced with a small predator, it flares its wings to appear larger. When faced with something much larger, it pulls its feathers inward, elongates its body, and narrows its eyes to thin slits. It's thought that it uses this ability to camouflage itself. So supposedly it's just sucking in its feathers. And it's not actually sucking in its skull, although it looks pretty weird looking. Some types may also narrow their eyes to slits and fold a wing sideways across their chest in a Dracula-like manner to hide the lighter colored feathers on their underparts. Such behavior has also been documented in eastern screech owls in a natural setting reacting to threats. So, looks like this is, a member of the species named Popo-chan was the subject of a Japanese television show. Okay, that's probably what I was just playing earlier. And they're not saying anything about Photoshop on there or CGI, so I think that was probably Popo-chan because there was all that Asian writing on there. So apparently this is legit from all I can see. There's more than one species that does this. Pretty freaking weird that nobody ever heard of. I have never heard of this before. I can't speak for you guys. But that's definitely something that you would think would have been on before now. So I don't know what to say. There's the shoulder again. So on to the next one. Okay. This one, I'm pretty sure this was Stand Up for Freedom again. Yeah, this was Stand Up for Freedom. Okay. So, when was the first genetically modified babies made? Now, here's the question. Okay, according to this article that he found, the world's first genetically modified babies will graduate high school this year. And that was 2014. So they would have been about 18 if they're graduating high school. So, I mean, that's going to be in the late 90s that they were created. And I don't recall any genetically modified humans in the late 90s. The first successful transfer of genetic material for this purpose was published in the U.S. Medical Journal in 1997, and then later cited in Human Reproduction publication in 2001. Scientists injected 30 embryos in all with a third person's genetic material. Now, the storyline here is that they injected them with a third person's mitochondrial DNA, which is the DNA that is passed on through the egg and through the female line. And some of these kids were supposedly had some defective or had a chance for defective mitochondrial DNA. And so they injected it with the third mitochondrial DNA, which would also replicate in the body in order to protect against this. But so supposedly it was done on 30 babies way back in the late 90s. And only now are they suddenly talking about it again. Well, I sure as heck have not heard any of that. They put the kibosh on this practice back in 2002. So, so they definitely did it for a while then, it sounds like. But then Stand Up for Freedom also found this article where it says, here's how the world's first three-parent baby was conceived. And this was in 2017, and it's talking about a recent event. So what happened to the late 90s story? While global health officials are approaching the scientific milestone with skepticism, the scientists say they're optimistic about the technique they've pioneered and ushered into the world. So now they're talking about this being a milestone of being a three-parent baby, and they're talking about mitochondrial DNA on this one also. Why is this a milestone if it was done in 97 and published back then and was going on for quite a number of years? It would not be a milestone. It's old news. It's 20-year-old news. So let's see. Parents conceive a healthy baby boy born last April, even though he was at risk of inheriting DNA for Leigh syndrome, a severe neurological disorder that usually kills within a few hours of birth. So they did it by injecting the third person mitochondrial DNA into this child. So it looks like it was about 2016 or so that this was done. So now all of a sudden this is, according to this article, is a new milestone thing. Here's another one. UK Parliament will soon consider making Britain the first country to allow three-person IVF. Now I'm guessing maybe they're not counting that one in 97 where the US allowed. Maybe they're not saying it's because they're okay, three-person in vitro fertilization. Are they not saying that the 97 one was a IVF? I mean, it was a three-person genetic alteration. So I don't know. This is just weird. Stand Up for Freedom found all of these, and it's just weird. It's like two timelines clashing. I mean, you would think that these people here would know about the 90s one. I can't see how you wouldn't. I mean, it's got to, did they none of them do research that happened in the past and they just assume they're the first? Yeah, I mean, even a Google search found what I found or what Stand Up found, so. So anyways, just weird. See. Candied cupcakes. Yep, this is Eva. Was listed under recommendations. Well, welcome. The second right statue looked straightforward last time I posted this. Yeah, those statue faces have definitely continued to alter. For me, originally, they were all in the middle of a mountain and they were all looking out very straight. You could see them all. Now they're all scrambled and pointing this way and that. Test tube baby 1981. I do remember when I was a kid, they talked about the test tube baby. But the test tube baby was just them putting a sperm and an egg together and fertilizing the egg and then implanting it. It wasn't that they were adding a third parent to it. So that's what this one's talking about, where they're adding a mitochondrial DNA from a third person into the baby. So basically, it's genetic modification. It is now possible for a woman to be impregnated by more than one man naturally. Yes, that actually is on the docket for later. I'll have to dig up who mentioned that one on the... It was actually another commenter that mentioned that one. And supposedly sperm can live for 9 days in a woman's body. Ah, that's interesting now. Susan Gunther Photography. Yeah, I have not heard that one yet. They've been talking about snakes and things being able to do things like that. I can't say I'm shocked because there's been so many radical changes in what other animals are able to do that just adding 7 days. I remember it taking like 2 or 3 days for the sperm to travel to the egg. I don't remember any, I don't remember there living much past that though. Wasn't soda originally invented as a medicine? I don't recall that specifically, but I don't recall any specific reason why soda was invented. I do remember them saying that Coca-Cola used to have cocaine in it. So maybe, but I don't remember them specifically saying it was a medication. I mean, certainly we don't use it as a medication now that often, so... Babies with different due dates, and exactly, yes, they will have different due dates. They can have different due dates now, and different fathers. I remember them doing this third parent mitochondrial DNA story, but I forgot about it until tonight. So I'm assuming you don't remember it from like the late 90s then. Richie Rich Rushmore. Okay. I'm assuming that we're going to be looking for residual here. Richie Rich. Ah. Yeah, Richie Rich is different for me. Okay. Images. He's got hair in that one. Yeah, see, they're even plain, but for me, there was a mountain. The rest of the mountain was up here, but they are kind of on an even stretch. See, look at these. These ones are all facing. Well, I guess that one's kind of close, but. Yeah. I mean, none of them really show the Washington head looking off like it is now. They're not as extreme as the current one. They're all kind of like milder versions. This one shows the Washington slotted person looking way off. See, look at how far he's looking off now. All right, anyway, I could go on about that forever. All right. What's next? I think we caught up with all the ones I had saved. All right. This is another weird animal I saw. There is a cute little cat that lives in the desert now. Look at that cute little kitty. The sand cat. Sand dune cat is the only cat living foremost in true deserts. The small cat is widely distributed in North Africa, Central Asia, sandy and stony deserts. Really cute little cat. I don't recall any. The little cats have been taking over the universe lately. There are so many cute little cats. So this is just another one. Look at how cute those are. So these are, now we have this desert dwelling cat. Probably about 2 years ago, I saw the palace cat too. And that one continues to look more and more strange. So I'm going to put it up here really quick. A very expressive face on these palace cats. There's just so many images of them looking sort of human-like. I don't remember the extreme lines on the face as much as I'm... See this line here? I don't remember these lines being on there before. So, see the whisker tick mark lines? I don't remember those either. I think they've just gotten a little fatter, a little weirder, a little more expressive. Just more and more weird. Yes, they're very cute though. Sherry D, I don't know what's going on with the stream. Sorry. It might be something with your computer, and if you refresh the URL, sometimes that can eliminate problems. Is the cat with wings a real thing? Eric Revis. There are really cats that have like a weird wing-like growth on their back, and it is said that there is bone inside the growth. They don't really look like real wings. They're just vaguely wing-shaped, and obviously the cat is not flapping them or flying or anything. But yes, they really do have those weird wing-like growths. It was in one part of China that they said these were cropping up. And they were saying that the growths grew. They weren't, the cats, the few that I saw, they were not saying the cats were born with these, but they were saying that they grew later after the cat was already an adult. So that's pretty much all we know at this point. The palace cat looks like something out of an old Jim Henson movie. Yes, it does look like somebody was having a good time with those cats. Making those up, making them look funny and expressive. It looks like some kind of thing that should be on a, say, a comic strip in the newspaper. You could make a great character out of them. I saw one video with a cat flapping them. That's interesting. I did not see that one. You can't discount anything anymore, so... I had never heard of this weird stuff going on with my computer. Never. Well, your computer works better than mine because mine has troubles all the time. Do I picture with the cats with wings? All right, let's go over it real quick. Cats with wings. China. All right, so there's this one that was my thumbnail one. Here's this. So supposedly, at least some of these have bone in them. Now, some sources are saying, oh, no, it's just flaps of, like, they're saying that it's knotted hair. But the thing with a lot of these is that the cat's overall hair is not that long, and suddenly you have this giant long strip here. This is not a long-haired cat. See, again, here, this cat's hair does not reach that long, so there's no way that... I guess you could have a mat and then peel it off, but the cat's not matted. Look at it. So I'm not buying the mats thing. Again here, it's standing up so well. The rest of the cat's not matted. I'm not buying the matted story, at least not for some of these. I mean, I'm not saying that none of them can be that, but this one's very blurry. Let's see if we can find a better one. Nope. But again, this is not a really long-haired cat, so anyway. Now this one looks a little more like it could be Matt's. But I mean, people are saying that they inspected the cats, they found bone in at least some of them. So anyway, there you go. Yeah, it does not look like matted hair or an extra limb to me. Early in the Emmy, I saw info that said they were mostly fur mats. Now, when I saw those, it was about 2 years ago, and they just said that there was like one of them in China and a few in historical records. They did not. Now they're saying that there's a number of them in one place in China. So now it's kind of a thing, whereas before it was one mutant cat. Now it's a trend of cats with the same growth mutation. So it's now more interesting. The winged cat news for just 12 weeks old for you. Yeah, I don't know. It was like it makes, some of these are hard to say because they make the rounds, and if you don't see them that first time, then they'll kind of sink back into obscurity for a while. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of all that. Cat breeders would be selling them here in North America. Yeah, just wait. I bet you it'll come. They have glow cats in China. Yes, I've heard that they've genetically altered some various animals to glow in the dark. That I heard about a year or two ago. Have Angora rabbits always been so huge, long fur? Not for me. They are definitely bigger things than they once were. Angora. I guess you could say that maybe the breeding has just kicked it up a notch in the last 5-10 years, but these are just more floofy. And what's the heck with this wing ears on this thing? I don't remember these wing ears on them either. So, look at that. I don't remember that. This was how I was seeing it before, like this, not like this. Look at that thing. Yeah, I don't remember them that big, let's just say. That one, started seeing that about 2 years ago, but the kind of wing ears thing is new for me. I have not seen this till recently. Okay, we got that one. All right, this one I just saw like an hour ago. All right, now this is a bit of an Emmy already, the Galapagos marine iguanas. A lot of people don't remember those. I think a spider just came down. Eek. All right, creepy spider. All right, so where was I after the creepy spider? So people do not remember the Galapagos marine iguanas as existing, say 10 years ago. I think I saw them a few years ago. Today, I see that they now sneeze often. Supposedly, they excrete concentrated salt crystals from nasal glands by sneezing, and they do it fairly often. And they're saying that they spray it out like a few feet sometimes. And the iguanas also are just looking kind of weird for me. They have this bumpy thing on the head here. They're looking kind of prehistoric. I don't remember them like that. See if we can get a sneeze out of them. Should be coming. All right, that one was kind of a mild one. But supposedly they sneeze all the time. Let's get another one on here. Regularly in order to... See, I don't remember all these bumps on the head last time I heard of them. And I was researching them. They have this weird extra bumpy part now that makes them look more unique. I also remember them being much more green than what I'm seeing now. So anyways, marine iguanas now sneeze salt. Eva, you got to see this Angora. Well, tell me what search term to use and I'll pull it up. I thought only llamas could spit. Yeah, I guess maybe... Yeah, llamas are getting really gross, too, about the spit. I have not heard of anything sneezing salt before, so it's a new one for me. All right, there's one page. I've gotten through one page. All right, this one from Julie Holcomb, who I think is on there right now. All right, let's try something else to find that. Okay, so it was a couple years ago that there was this big creepy clowns hiding in the forest, scaring people, showing up. There was rumors that it was just bored kids trying to scare people. Well, now the story is that the first phantom clown scare happened in 1981. And I don't remember any creepy clowns from 1981. 1981 was a banner year for horror. Outside of local cinemas and drive-ins, there was plenty of horror as well. Okay, wait. Let's get down to the clown part. All right. At the end of April, things started happening that parents, principals, and teachers couldn't ignore. Daniel O'Connor, a counselor for Boston Public School District, sent out a memo about men dressed as clowns bothering children at schools. Teachers were told to actually watch kids between taking drags on their cigarettes. Parents were warned to be aware of where their children were going after school. On May 5th, the local news took an interest in the clowns after police in Brookline were alerted to men dressed as clowns trying to lure kids into a van with candy. The next day, Boston police were called out to Franklin Park in Jamaica Plain where children were harassed by men in clown gear. So anyway, I don't remember any 1981 thing. When the clowns thing started happening about 3-4 years ago, there was no talk of this ever having happened before. So apparently now it has happened before. This is from Julie Holcomb, a common commenter on my channel who comes up with a lot of MEs. Do you remember the phantom clown scare starting in 1981? Chinese lady Angora rabbit search. Okay, let's try that. Chinese lady Angora rabbit. Images. Huh, that's pretty puffy. It looks like a giant, it doesn't look real, does it? I've seen some images like that, but they're just getting puffier and puffier. Look at that thing. Looks like she's whipping up a pie or something. Anyways, yeah, craziness with these rabbits. It's the king of the tribbles. Yeah, you're right. It does look like a tribble. But it looks like some weird anime character to me also. It looks like a terrible from Star Trek, Shari D. I think your spell check is attacking. A little too long in the dryer. Yeah, I think they're supposed to shrink when you're too long in the dryer, though. All right, this one is from Alex Montoya. Coaxial rotors. I don't remember these. I certainly don't remember them from, was that date? 1859. Coaxial rotors. What's a coaxial rotor? That's when the helicopters have two of the spinny things. They're rotors. So normally you see a helicopter, it just has one. So they rotate in opposite directions. So it's fairly complicated because you have to have a shaft in the middle rotating one way and a shaft on the outside rotating the other. So apparently they've had these coaxial rotors since 1859, which seems like quite a stretch for me. I have seen those in recent years. I have not seen them when I was younger at all. So, I mean, I'm not a complete expert on helicopters, but 1859? All right, I'm suspicious of that. I can't really call it. There's another one. But I'm really suspicious of 1859 on that one. Really suspicious. Guinness, 1N or 2? 1N for me, like you wrote it. That's how I remember it. Guinness, does it have 2 now? It does. It has 2. Yeah, only 1N for Guinness for me. Guinness. That looks weird with 2. That's not right. Anybody who's in California, also, here's another one that Dianne Feinstein is our senator. She had 1N for me on the Dianne part. Dianne Feinstein with 1N. Now she's really old, so she was not around during that weird time when they started spelling, like for fun, spelling the kids' names all weird. Now I'm really suspicious of that because the timeline was saying that people were enjoying alternate spellings, and then suddenly we have all these alternate spellings of people who are way too old to have been named during that time, which was about 15, 20 years ago. So there's an interesting story behind this Dianne Feinstein one, because this one is just kind of one of that not many people really know Dianne Feinstein enough to have noticed if her name changed. I mean, if you're not a Californian and you're not paying attention to politics a ton, then you're not going to notice this. But I have a coworker, and I mentioned to her that I didn't remember Dianne Feinstein's name having 2 N's, and she didn't remember it either. And also, she had said a few other things in the past that were the ME version. So I made a joke about Arctica with her a couple days ago. And she didn't say, like, what's Arctica? She just laughed at it. So then I was starting to get really suspicious because I'm like, was she thinking in her mind, what the hell is Arctica? But she just didn't say it out loud. So I finally asked her, I go, do you remember Arctica? And she said, well, of course I remember Arctica. Well, she remembers Arctica just like I do, as a continent on the North Pole, and Arctica and Antarctica. She remembered it just as me. And I have asked a lot of people I know if they remember Arctica, and not one of them ever has, but she remembered it. So then, of course, on the spot, I was kind of having to tell her why I was asking. So I didn't want to tried not to make it too scary. So I just said, well, for some reason, the maps have changed. They don't show Arctica. A lot of people remember Arctica, but nobody can find any map that says Arctica. And she was all freaked out. And then she kind of like stopped talking about it after she said she was freaked out. And I kind of brought it up with her again today, and she didn't sound like she really wanted to talk about it. But she really sounds like she's from my timeline, because when I ask her Mandela Effect things, she remembers it my way most of the time. Or she just doesn't remember either way. So I do think she's an affected, but I think I'm not going to push her on it. I don't know if maybe, in a month I'll just kind of float the idea. She didn't get mad at me. She didn't say it didn't matter. And so those are the two common responses. But I don't think she's ready to quite deal with it yet either. So we'll see. But anyway, I was very excited to find someone who remembered Arctica that I didn't meet online. I have met some people online that remember it, but I have not actually asked around and ever found anybody that remembers Arctica up until now. And she was really freaked out. Yeah, I remember Antarctica from school days, Genable. Yeah, but we had an Arctica. There was Arctica and Antarctica. They were the two together, one on the top, one on the bottom. Like they were like end pieces. You always said Arctica and Antarctica together because they were one here, one there. Somehow it made sense. See, not even a lot of Mandela Effect people remember Arctica. And I go through stages where a bunch will, and then other stages where almost nobody remembers it. I might be in a nobody remembers it stage right now. Arctica was at the Arctic Circle. Yeah, it was at the North Pole on the top there. If you go to macroevolution.net, you will see all the new hybrid animals. Pigeon chickens, cabbits, cat rats. All right, macroevolution.net. Let's try it. Dog cow hybrids. Right, there's certainly been a lot of malformations being born. What those really are is anybody's question. I've seen a number of these. This is supposed to just have a malformed mouth, a cow with a malformed mouth, or is it really a cow-dog hybrid? I don't think you could really I don't think you can really say at this point. I mean, certainly there's been malformations being born that don't look like anything. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of these. But this might be a good source for just finding the latest malformations, that's for sure. What those things really are, I can't say. Malformations, genetic manipulation, mixed genetics between species. Plume remembers Arctica. And Cupie. Good job. Yeah, it's like Arctica is the biggest ME for me because it's a whole continent that's gone. It had a name and it's gone. It's just gone. It hasn't changed. It's just gone. A whole freaking continent. They could just be freaks. You're talking about the hybrids. Yeah, we don't know what those are. The hybrids, or they're genetically malformed. There's a lot more than there used to be like that, certainly. Chimerons. Are you talking about chimeras, or are we talking about chimerons? Because I don't know what a chimeron is. Chimeron. I mean, I know that they're mixing genetics in the lab now. All right, so that's chimerons are characters on Doctor Who. I think you're talking about that they are mixing and matching the genetics quite a bit. The storyline is if they mix and match the genetics when the things are very embryonic for some reason, they don't have rejection problems. That wasn't the case in my old timeline, but in this timeline, it seems to work. Arctica was my Emmy awakening. It wasn't my first one. The first ones that I heard about were just like the more boring ones, like Berenstein and Berenstain. But that was one, and it was Arctica and the Anatomy Emmys. I heard about the Anatomy Emmys first, but I can't see how we all remember a whole continent with a specific name and it never existed. So Arctica is going to be the biggest one for me always, I think. Yeah, I don't care really so much if the logo changes, a whole continent went poof. Exactly. You just can't, a lot of the Emmys just can't compete with an entire continent gone. Okay, this one is from AH, a commenter on my channel. Now, I've been watching these for a couple of years, and when they first happened, they were a lot smaller. And it's these weird ice circles, ice discs. When I first saw them, they were just a few feet across. Now, they're really big. I'm going to go through this. We got to watch for this whole thing. Excuse me. This is from the Science Channel, I see. What on earth? I swear I'm sure I saw this too. Let's see if I can get to the part where they talk about it. Okay. There it is. So these are supposedly formed naturally and spin around. I'm not going to play too much because I will get a copyright strike for sure from these guys. Or ice crepe. I've not heard of ice crepe. Is a natural phenomenon that occurs in slow-moving water and cold climates. So there's a lot of these now. And I agree, they're new. They were tiny like a couple years ago. There was nothing huge like that. The new holes. Research 5D. Have you seen Unimundi's video of the new holes in the ribs? Some Google images show them. Others showed the old ribs. Research 5D, we've been talking about that for a few months on here. I've showed images of them. They're not actually in the ribs. They are in the cartilage part that is where the rib used to be. I talked about it earlier in this stream, actually, too. So I'll just do it again anyway for fun. Images. Let's see, that one is not quite showing it. It's one that you can really see it. Here we go. So you're talking about this. This blue area here is actually cartilage. So they might call it part of the rib cage, but it's not really your ribs. Now what's happened is a lot of these ribs here, they have bent down more. They kind of slope down, and so they're not able to slip over and attach here. So this cartilage has been sort of combining with the neighboring cartilage to get back up here instead of going all the way up. When I first started watching the ME, each rib had some cartilage that would come and attach, and the next rib would have its own cartilage like that. And then over the last couple of years, they've started combining. I've been seeing occasional holes and webbing in here for the last year. So this is not real new for me, and I believe I've mentioned it on here quite a few times. But it's other people are going to see the same MEs as I see. This is kind of a blatant one. So I also think for me, back in the day, there actually weren't nearly as many ribs as this. They were bigger. They were just thicker and less. There weren't all these million ribs. So, and we've talked about how this rib has jumped up here now, up way above the neck, and the collarbone is right across here, and it actually shares space on this manubrium area with the ribs. That was a recent change about a couple weeks ago. The ribs are starting to look like an egg. Yes, up here is so much more protected now too. So I think it's basically protecting the organs a lot better than it used to. Deer eating a bird. Yes, we've covered those. A horse eating a rat, a deer eating a bird. All the herbivores now sometimes eat meat. New Zealand's above Australia. That freaked me out. Is it? New Zealand's above Australia now? Or what? No. To me, New Zealand was on the right of Australia, very close. Okay, so it's below. New Zealand is below Australia. It's actually getting a little closer to how I remember it. I remember it in here. It was smaller. It's looking pretty hefty right now. It looks like about 30% bigger. It was one unit for me. It was not split in half like it is now. So I would see it like right here. That's how I remember it. Wakanda may appear out of nowhere one day. It would have, and they'll tell you that they remember it since their childhood, I'm sure. What is weird is how high spinal column goes in the brain. Julie Holcomb. Yes, I agree with you. That one is a little bit older one, but yes, the whole brain, the spinal cord goes way up into the brain, and it's very organized inside the center of the brain now. It did not used to be that way. All right, so we got that. We got that one. This one is, again, another one by TGVJYCZXX. Tigvijik Zix. And I did see this one, and I was also suspicious of it. This is one of my less favorite MEs. Well, STD. So this flesh-eating thing, there was only one flesh-eating virus. I've heard about it about 20 years ago, maybe. But now they're saying flesh-eating STD makes comeback after found in England. There was no flesh-eating STD in my old timeline, not to mention it making a comeback. It sounds like something out of a horror movie, but researchers warn it's real. British woman contracted the rare STD that devours the flesh. That's just totally gross, and I don't want to talk about it too much, just to say that that is an ME for me. Ew, no thank you. All right. I'm not sure if I covered this one before. I may have mentioned it. So apparently since 1938, there has been a population of rhesus macaque monkeys living in Florida around Silver Springs. There's a story that they were released by tour board operator Colonel Tui to enhance his Jungle Cruise ride. So this kind of goes together with a lot of new animals and new places. So now these macaques have been here since 1938. I don't think so, no. But I think we'll find that they'll go back in time and they'll be there earlier and earlier, and eventually the story will be that they were been there since the Viking times or some ridiculous baloney. So anyway, Florida, you've got macaques now. Theory of Sistine Chapel creation of Adam having the brain hidden in God's clouds has gone to pot with cherubs disappearing. That whole thing with the brain, I had not heard of that before, but it could have been. I heard about it about a year ago, and I have to say, though, that it might not have been something I knew, but I mean, I could see me not knowing that. Sistine Chapel, brain. Should be good enough. It has to be mentioned that God has dropped another inch or two, so his finger is now lower than Adam. Now, the name of this for me has changed in the last few months, maybe even as far back as 6 months ago. This was called God and Man for me for a really long time. It is now the creation of Adam. So the last time I went to look this up, I couldn't find it because I kept looking for God and Man. Let's see if I put that in. Brain. See, you type God and Man brain, and it knows that you're talking about this creation of Adam thing. It knows. So if it was never called God and Man, then how does it know what I'm looking for? Is God the brain in the creation? So, as you can see, this cherub here has been slowly morphing into a female, which these were all just cherubs, but they're getting to be older and older now. This one's creepy here. God's got his arm around a naked woman. I haven't checked on this one in a while. So the theory here is that this was supposed to be a brain, and like they're saying that if you put a brain shape over this, it'll the fissures will map onto here. I'm not seeing side-by-side comparison of tracing of the basic outline of the mid-sagittal brain and tracing of God's background. Well, it's still pretty close. This is interesting because they're kind of locked together now. So as the brain changes, so must, like, this foot is going to... One thing I've noticed about the brain is the brainstem seems to have more angle inside the head. And Mandela Effect had mentioned that on his channel recently. So if these two are locked together, then this foot will have to change. And indeed, it does look like a little bit different position than I recall it. I don't remember this knee sticking out so far like this. So that's interesting. There seems to be more space up in there. But this is the one I wanted to look at, because I haven't seen it in a while. But the last few times I looked at it, God was just... So on the Sistine Chapel now, there's a spot where God's butt is showing. It's hard to believe that the church would ever allow something like that. This is the one thing I've noticed, that when I first saw this, there was just about only half of what's showing now was visible. So his butt shows more and more as we go along. And, you know, it's almost showing some leg now. His whole butt now shows. Before it was just a tad. So, I mean, I can't imagine that they would ever paint a picture of God on the Sistine Chapel with his butt showing. The other difference I notice here is that this is just way more form-fitting, this cloth stuff here now. So basically have God is like almost half naked now. That, to me, is ridiculous. They would have never allowed that. For me, it was creation of man. Ah, okay. Shari D, I will not say I know for sure what it was way back. I do know that about 2 years ago, when I learned of the ME, it was God and Man. So, that's interesting. Maybe that's an ME for a lot of people. And it may have been creation of man like 20 years ago. I just was not familiar with the name of it before I started. When the ME changes happened, I started paying a lot more attention to specific things. Sculpture called Veiled Christ. Julie Holcomb. Okay, let's check it real quick. Oh, okay. Okay, I was just seeing this recently. Maybe it was your link. So some people are arguing that this sculpture, if I remember correctly, they were saying that and there's two arguments. One is that this was just carved like this with all this intricate detail. Another is saying that they somehow managed to put cloth drapes over this statue, and then somehow turn the cloth drapes into some kind of hard stone. So that would be the alchemy. Granted, I've never seen this statue before, just like last week. It is very interesting. Very interesting. But I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. There's just a lot of stuff in this timeline. I don't even know what to say. The stories will keep changing. I mean, that's exquisite work if that was actually carved. I've never seen anything like that if it was carved. Let's see what... let's make a quickie here and see what they're saying. Come along. The Veiled Christ is one of the most famous and impressive works of art in the world. Okay, I've never seen it before until last week. And statue made by Antonio Corradini, who had already done Modesty for him. Corradini died in 1752 and only managed to make a terracotta scale model of the Christ, which is now preserved in Museo de San Martino. A life-size marble statue representing our Lord Jesus Christ, dead and covered in a transparent shroud carved from the same block as the statue. So supposedly that's all marble. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful work. If it was carved, that's just amazing. But I don't know. I don't know what to make of these things again. There's just too many weird things in this timeline. Before, when God was actually above Adam, the legs would have to be more vertical, just like, remember, the brainstem. Yes, it seems like those two are locked in now. The legs move with the brainstem. Fear of the Walking Dead. Now, Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know that one well, so I can't comment on that. Transparent marble. Yeah, I think it's just meant to look transparent. It's not really. That's why it's such a remarkable piece. But it's still not that impressive to me compared to Arctica. Well, yeah, you can't. It's going to be hard to beat Arctica. However, as others have noticed, Antarctica is showing up on fewer and fewer maps lately. So we may have another one. Oliver Henry, you're from Cali. Has Salton Sea always been this big? No, it has not always been this big. And its whole storyline has changed. Originally, in my timeline, they said that the entire Salton Sea was caused by that irrigation drainage mistake, and that in ancient times there was a Salton Sea, but it had completely dried up. And then the new Salton Sea was made by that irrigation problem where that irrigation canal broke. And so they were saying that they were not going to save the Salton Sea because it was unnatural and that it was not worth spending money on something that was unnatural. The storyline now is that the Salton Sea has been there a really long time, and the irrigation leak only made it larger. And they will try to save it because it is a natural thing. It's just a little bit larger than it normally is due to the irrigation leak. So the whole history of Salton Sea has changed. It's way bigger, and it also now has mud volcanoes, which it did not used to have, because we were planning a trip down there, and it did not have mud volcanoes when we were planning that trip. So I've been kind of watching these. These have been growing slowly, these mud volcanoes. There's more and more places where they are. They're getting larger. They're also getting some color to some of them. Other pools of water in the Salton Sea area are getting some various colors. The old colored bacteria, yam yam. So here's this woman. She's been swimming in the mud volcanoes. Apparently the mud is not overly hot, so you can go in. It is warm though. I don't know the exact temps, but there are images of people going in. See here now, there some of these, when I first saw this, there were no colors here, but some of them are now becoming colored. And these volcanoes are starting to spring up in more than one spot around Salton Sea also. So that's another change. The other thing I'm suspicious of is the petrified salt animals around the Salton Sea. I don't remember those going back like, say, 20 years ago. I think that's just like the last 10 years. Arctica is a huge one, but Michigan in 2 pieces comes close. I agree with you. Susan Gunther Photography. Yes, there was some talk about that, but not nearly enough. There was not a divided state like that in the country before. I 100% agree with you. Let's see. Let's look at it here. There it is. Michigan map. So it's here, and then there's the Great Lakes splitting it, and then it's here. That was not how it was. It was just one. But Canada has actually made a lot of encroachments down in here. The lakes have dropped down, and also this appendage here on this lake, that one showed up about a year ago. That was not there before. Let me see if I can find a better map of that. Nah, it's not the map I was looking for. Let's try images. Yeah, right here, this bit here, I call baloney on that one. Lake Huron did not have this. This has been splitting off more and more, too. It's like it's becoming a whole nother lake. I think we're going to start to see that have... Does it have its own name yet? I mean, if you look at that, it really looks like it should have its own name. It's all barely connected now. So I think eventually that's going to get a name and be another lake. At least it's been heading that way. Okeechobee used to go clear to Everglades Park. It's like half the size. Yeah, I don't know that one. Japan has changed very much. Yes, it moved. It's got way more islands. It's got new dog species on it that it never had before. And one that I recently saw was that, oh, this is an interesting one. I don't know if I wrote this one down. But it used to be for me that only China did the foot binding of the women's feet. But now Japan also did it. And also the images of the foot binding look very different to me than I remember them. This is the foot binding now. It did not look like you had a funky high heel on in my old timeline with the foot binding. I actually looked at quite a few images of it. The feet were not curled the toes were not curled under like that. I mean, it was squashed. It was tight. It looked ugly, but it didn't have this. There's no effing way it had that. That is not how the foot binding was. Look at this. It looks like she's got high heels on, but it's her feet. And the toes were not wrapped under. That is totally insane. I mean, it was always gross, but it was never that gross. No, that is not how the foot binding was. Now, we've talked about before that the feet have this much larger bone here. So maybe that is part of why the foot binding results are different now, because that bone is a lot bigger. But this is not at all how it was. Not. Anyway, I can't say it too many times. Here's the Japanese history. Practice was also discouraged by the ruling Japanese from the beginning, but then it gradually took hold in certain areas. It was Heian, Japan. Anyways, also here's another weird part I read. Foot binding originated in the 10th or 11th century by dancers. You can't dance on those feet. I can't imagine dancers doing that to their feet. That just strikes me as so wrong. I can't see how dancers would mangle the feet like that. Anyway, the foot binding is a lot worse in this timeline, and there is more of it. What they're doing to the feet is just much worse than it ever was. Foot binding was only China. The images you're showing look very different. Feet were broken forward, not sideways. Yeah, they were just kind of squinched in. They did not have the toes rolled under, and they did not have that giant hoof heel thing. Have you seen the Pantheon in Memphis? Are you talking about that Parthenon one? I did see that in somebody else's video, but I didn't watch the whole video. Memphis. Is it the Pantheon or the Parthenon? Yeah, Parthenon, Nashville. Oh, it's a full-scale replica. Oh, neat. Built in 1897. Okay, so it's not even new. Yeah, I never heard of it. There seems like there's replicas of everything popping up everywhere now. I mean, first it was just in China, but now it's everywhere. Nashville's moniker, the Athens of the South. Whatever, never heard of that either. Athens of the South. Do you know they've been cloning pets for years? I actually need input. I heard about that a few years ago. They were talking about cloning horses. Yeah, I do remember that for a couple years now. There was question about whether they'd be healthy. I had a question about it anyway. People were talking about cloning their pets, and they said that some people actually had it done a couple years ago. I remember that. Yes, only in China. I'm absolutely positive it was only one place, and that was China. And I even remember thinking that you would think that Japan might, that it seemed more like something that would happen in Japan, because Japan has that emphasis on small feet. And I had not really heard as much of an emphasis in China. So I remember that confusion as well, that it was not what I would have expected. But I guess now it is sort of what you'd expected. So anyway, yeah, there was the Parthenon in Memphis. Is there a Pantheon too? Let me check it out. Pantheon. No, it looks like it's Parthenon. I don't see a Pantheon. Can never be sure these days. So anyway, yeah, there's a full-scale replica of the Parthenon. Been here 100 years. Cool. That can't have been cheap to build either. I mean, assuming a human really built it and it didn't just materialize out of the ME matrix. They wore geta. Yeah, the Japanese wore those high shoes. Can you imagine trying to clack around on those high shoes with those high heel feet? And dancers doing that to themselves? All right, what? They're not using the geta anymore? Let's see what they look like. No, that's about right. That's about right for me. The geta. I can't say I know the exact history of Geta. I just remember they would show the geisha clacking around on these Geta. I don't know what the dancers clacked around on. Supposedly the Geta was also helpful for keeping them out of the mud, since they were kind of high like that. Sperm living for how long in a woman? 9 days. Yes, somebody already brought it up. I was late to that party. 9 days. I remember 2 to 3 days to get into the egg, to swim up to the egg, and to fertilize it. But 9 days, no. All right, somewhere in here I had that thing about the. See if I can jump to it, because it's getting really late, and I'm not going to cover everything in here. Not even close. Oh my God, I've totally not hardly covered anything. All right. Wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, that. If I have enough life force, I might have to do another one of these in the middle of the week, because I've got a ton of MEs in here that I'm not going to get to. All right. This one was another one from Stand Up for Freedom. Twins are conceived weeks apart. Twins born 87 days apart. So let me find that one. I've been hearing this for a few months now, kind of a little bit of a rumor mill about it, that twins can have different set of parents, like a different set of fathers, a different father, basically. And I was suspicious about that, and maybe I heard that 6 or 8 months ago, but now they're saying that you can also be born, you can be twins and born very separately. Now, in my old timeline, once one baby was in the oven, the body would not allow production of any other babies. But in this timeline, one baby can be in there growing, and then another baby can become inseminated and latch on, and it can be, in this case, quite a number of days apart. It can be that egg can have come down quite a distance later after the first one. The babies can be different sizes in there. And then it's tricky, because they're going to try to have you birth one or not the other. So this woman here, she birthed one of them, and then 4 months later, she birthed a second baby. Now, part of the distance was that one of them was premature, but I've never heard of anything like that where one can come out and the other can stay in there longer. That is totally a trip for me. That I just, no, this is a brand new one for me. This Stand Up for Freedom is finding a lot of them, and this is a really interesting one. It's like, even like puppies and kittens and stuff, they all come out at the same time, and they're the same age. You don't get like a tiny little fetus kitten coming out at the same time as a full-term kitten. I mean, that just, I've never even heard of anything like that. So anyway, I'm tripping out over that. That is so weird. So apparently this 87 days was a new record or something. But for me, it's 87 days more than I ever heard of. Now, I can certainly have remembered that it might take another 8 hours to get the other baby out, but not 87 freaking days. Those shoes were for rice paddies. Yeah, it could be the Geta shoes. I just remember they were saying the roads were muddy, and so that's why the geisha wore them. But, I mean, that was not, geisha weren't the only ones that wore those, so. Has Shiva changed? I didn't really see anything when I took a quick glance at it. Shiva Zern. Anyway, it's almost 2 hours, so I'm going to have to wrap it up real soon here. I was kind of glancing over Shiva. The only thing I kind of would say was, and I just noticed this, was I think that this little demon is getting a little larger. And he's definitely becoming more detailed. When I first saw it, I thought he was a pig thing. Now it's clearly some kind of little man. But I think he's gotten a little larger because at first you barely noticed him down there. And I've commented before, there's this little notch on the hip here. See if I can get this to become larger. Nope, that's not real helpful. Let's see, 606, 70, 200. This one is pretty dark. Yeah, it takes a while to find the right image. But I did not notice any huge changes on there. I mean, I've definitely discussed some in the past few weeks, but I haven't noticed any huge changes in the last 2 weeks, maybe. I mean, we talked about this flame having more fingers on it. It used to match these ones. I think that her headpiece is, his headpiece is getting larger, but nothing hugely obvious, at least not to me. I don't remember Sault Ste. Marie being both an American city and a Canadian city. I can't say on that one. I don't know that side of the country that well. I do know that we have a Vancouver, California now, along with a Vancouver, Canada, and that did confuse me because I ship things and people, I ask them where the item is going and they say Vancouver, and I'm not sure which one they're talking about. Let's see. I'm pretty sure that was Vancouver, was it? Ah, weird. I'm not seeing Vancouver, California now. Vancouver to California. Is there a Vancouver, California? Yes. Oh. Weird. All right. That's interesting. For a while, there was a Vancouver. Now we have a question. Is there a Vancouver, California? But I'm not seeing it. So I don't know. Is it gone again? God, that's weird. Wow. I looked that up like 3 times because it was such a trip. It was way up Northern California. So the problem was that it would say Vancouver, CA, and I never knew if they meant Vancouver, California or Vancouver, Canada. I might have thought I was tripping, but see, look, there's a question right there. Is there a Vancouver, California? Weird. Okay. All right. So, I don't know what to say about that one. There are 2 Vancouvers, one in British Columbia and one in Washington. Ah, so it's in Washington now. Oh. I'm real suspicious about that one, though, because I'm quite sure it was Vancouver, CA for both of them. For a while, anyways. But, you know, that whole upper above California keeps flipping around for me. Nope, so apparently now it's Vancouver, Washington. All right, interesting. Vancouver, Washington. Haha, see? For you doubters, it is not just Canada. We have a Vancouver, Washington. The largest suburb and, let's see, city on the north bank of Columbia River in the U.S. state of Washington. There is a China, Illinois. China, USA. What's up? Like the Emmy has ran out of names or something here? China, USA. City of China. Let's try that. USA Oita. USA is a city located in Oita Prefecture, Japan. I'm guessing it's USA, but that's still weird. China, Texas. China is a city in Jefferson County, Texas. All right, I'm not from Texas, but you guys can tell me, is there a China, Texas? Made in USA is actually made in China. There's a city named USA. So what's up with that? Is there a USA in China? There's a city named USA there. Made in the USA means it's made here in the US. So if it says made in USA, it could be made in USA, China. And then we also have a China, Texas, USA. All right, anyways, that's making me crazy. The Emmy will never run out of names. I don't know. It keeps copying stuff. I saw a video about a squirrel rabbit. Need input. We were looking at that earlier, and it was on a April Fool's Day joke thing where it showed a squirrel rabbit and said that they were real. If you look up on the dictionary, they're saying a squirrel rabbit is really just a squirrel missing its tail. So I don't think we have a squirrel rabbit yet. We might have it eventually, but I don't think it's in this reality yet. Oh, yeah, talk about the brown donkey. Ha, ha, ha. Yes. Okay. Good point. I should put that one in. So they have this donkey now, the poitou donkey. Let's see. Somebody brought this to my attention. Who was that brought in this funky donkey? There are so many on this list that I have not covered. No, I'm going to find it. Who told me about the donkey? Phantom clowns, ice discs, babies. What? It's making me crazy. There it is. It's from Chanty Moody. The poitou donkey. The poitou donkey with dreadlocks. So apparently these things naturally have dreadlocks, these funky donkeys. And that's how they grow. So only 30 years ago, less than 30 of these beautiful and friendly animals were left. Now, thanks to a conservation program, it looks like the dreadlocked donkey is set to stay a while on planet Earth. These things are in France somewhere. What's weird about this timeline is it seems like they don't really talk about the problems with inbreeding anymore. I mean, there's all these stories where they find, there's only 3 left, but now they've made a full recovery. Look at all the dreads on that thing. Apparently, I mean, if you just had 3 or even just 30 animals and you bred the hell out of them, they should be really sickly, according to my old timeline, because of too much inbreeding. But you just don't hear about that here. So anyway, these things are really weird looking. First we got that dreadlock dog. Now we've got these donkeys. Anyway, just weird. Super hairy. Tusked deer was a shock for me. Yeah. I saw those a couple years ago, but the tusks were a lot smaller. They've gotten a lot larger since then. All right, this is one more by Chanty Moody, the sea sheep. The sea sheep. Sea sheep slug. These are very cute little slugs that supposedly look like sheep, which they do kind of look like sheep. Now here's what's interesting about this one and why I'm super sure this is a Mandela. Because about 2 years ago, I heard about one kind of deep sea creature that would do what this one does, but it was a different guy. And what this one can do is he eats chlorophylls, and then he puts the chlorophylls into his body and uses them and uses them for photosynthesis. And then he takes the food, or it takes the food. So all of these are photosynthesizing here on its body, and they are able to keep them alive, not indefinitely, but then they'll be eating more plants, so they can just keep replenishing them as they die. Now, what's interesting about this is that there was another species that did that, and it was just like this flat slug, and it was the only species that did that. And I really looked, and I actually covered it like a couple times where I went back and looked, and it was the only species that would take chlorophyll into its body. And it was more of a flat thing. It wasn't a sea sheep. So these sea sheep they were not anywhere around when I researched that about a year ago. And look at them. They're really cute. Really cute. So that's why they're all green, because this is photosynthesizing in here. This one some people have already covered too, this little funky thing. There's a lot of really weird. I think this is the one I saw originally. The Emerald Elysia. This is the one I saw originally that was really flat. And this is the only one that photosynthesized by stealing the particles from other plants. So anyway, I call the Big Fat ME on the sea sheep. Shanty Moody suggested that one as just being cute, but the photosynthesizing part is my own addition on that one. So anyways, it's 2:08 in the morning here, so I've been going for 2 hours. I am nowhere near being finished, so I'm going to have to close it up here. The Serta sheep, the sea sheep. Yeah, they're really cute. I like those. I guess I could have put one of those up too. They're very cute. That one would have been a contender for the thumbnail for sure. Sea sheep. I wonder if this one is one without the photosynthetics. I'm thinking he doesn't have the photosynthesizing parts in his whatever those tentacles are yet. That's why he's white. All right, anyway, so it's getting time to close up. Let me just see if I have to make any comments here. Ever heard of Babylon, New York? Yeah, no. You know, I can't really comment on the other states, but I do know that there are some really new cities in California up north. There's just a lot more territory above San Francisco than there ever was for me before. Alrighties. Oh, the sea slugs. I don't think they're that big, these sea sheep. Little tiny guys. Wouldn't be surprised if they got bigger later, but let's see. These cute slugs are the sheep of the sea. Native off the coast of Japan, Indonesia, and the Philippines. It doesn't say, but I don't think these are super big things yet. All right, so they're Costaciella kuroshimai. Kuroshimai. I wonder why they call it kuro. Sounds like it's Japanese, and kuro I thought meant dark. Look at that wiki. It's tiny. Wow, look. There's like nothing in this wiki. This one might be a really new one. Ability to incorporate chloroplasts from the algae it feeds on into its body and use them to do photosynthesis. All right, let me make sure that's the same one now. I'm really curious. Because that is like the shortest wiki ever for a super cute thing. And what I think that means when there's nothing in the wiki is that the animal, if the animal is a very new one, I mean, if the animal is a very interesting one that should have a bigger wiki, is that it's very new. Yep, that's it. Costa Ciela Crochime. All right, so yes, good call on that one, Chanty Moody. Anyways, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now. So for sure, the next live stream will have lots of MEs because I've only done maybe half of the ones I have available right now. I don't understand all these new places, but less land. Clyde Ewing. You know, I think what happens is that a lot of places you look, there's just a lot of unused land. There's probably houses nobody lived in. You wouldn't notice if they're gone. There's space. All the open spaces I think have been eaten away. So if you look at a lot of open space that used to be there, I've just seen it. A lot of it disappear in my town. Eva, is your hair growing really fast or am I imagining? No, my hair grows really fast. I've actually cut this one. I've trimmed the bangs a couple times since that haircut. But yeah, I have fast growing hair, especially when it's short like that. Have you heard about the flip-flopping Emmys like Fruit Loops, Fruit Loops? Yes. Yes, there are a number of them that flip. Fruit Loops have flipped about 5 times for me. It started with the UI, then it was OO, back to UI, back to OO. I think that we're on, and we're back to UI again, so I think that's 5. The other one that flips a ton for me is the United States flag. It was a red line under the blue just recently. Now it's white line under the blue again, but it was red line under the blue just a few weeks ago. So that one has flipped for me, and probably more times than I even realized, because I wasn't really watching for it until people started pointing that out as an ME. So, yeah, the U.S. flag, which color line is under the blue, keeps changing for me. In fact, it looks kind of weird now. Wait a minute. Let me just look at this. See, I could do MEs all day sometimes. Okay. The reason I thought it looked weird... Jeez, there's a lot of versions of it. This one's not too bad. Some of these, and maybe it's just bad drawing, but... like this one, it just seems like there's a lot of space on the top. It's not centered. You're going to pay $210 for a flag where the stars are not centered in the middle of the blue field? Anyways, apparently not all of them have that, but see, I saw it on a bunch of these and I was sort of tripping here. Who did our flag all? Look at that, the same thing. All uncentered and off to the right. That is not right, and I've never seen a flag with that. I mean, are we going to get more of that? Crappy centering. Those stars should be centered with the even borders around the edge. See, this one sucks too. It's got the up and down, but the sides are too pinched against the edge of the blue field. Anyway, quit screwing. Look at that. Their stars shouldn't be that tight against the edge of the blue. That is not right. Anyways, crappy quality. I mean, it can't be that hard to get that right. Especially with the computer nowadays. You just drag and drop things. Anyways, okay, I'm done moaning about the flag, and I'm really leaving this time. Flag of Australia has a giant star on it now. You know, for me, the flag of Australia used to be a jumping kangaroo. It was kind of a little bit unusual one, but it looked good. The roo is gone now, and the Brit flag has taken over the planet there. The Hawaiian flag did not used to have the British flag on it. The Brits had a lot more control of Hawaii, and the Americans were much in the background in this timeline, last I checked. In my timeline, the Americans were the primary influence on the development of Hawaii, and Brits weren't really in the picture. But in this timeline, the Brits were very prominent in the development of Hawaii, and Hawaii has the Union Jack. Their flag has the Union Jack on it. So that was actually freaked me out. It was about 8 months ago when I heard about that, maybe a year. Anyways, there's a lot about the history that freaks me out. The British were a lot more successful in this timeline than they were in mine, and they had a lot more influence in a lot more places, and that's why their flags all over the place now. Yeah, I can't remember Britain having anything to do with Hawaii. Let's see. Let me check this now because I'm going to trip out if it changed. Hawaii, Britain, history. See, there's the flag of Hawaii, and it's got the Union Jack on it. That is just wrong. I have to say I can't remember exactly what it was, but it had a bunch of white in it. I think it had some kind of a brown pattern in it. It was one of those, kind of flags that just looked like a goofy picture. All right, history of Hawaii. Europeans led by British explorer James Cook arrived in Hawaiian Islands in 1778. Within 5 years, European military tech helped Kamehameha conquer and unify the islands for the first time, establishing the Kingdom of Hawaii. American immigration began after European contact. Blah, blah, blah. Let's see. All right, we don't need the ancient. All right, there's the sugar cane. All right. Well, maybe I'm tripping because I don't see the British stuff anymore. Dum, dum, dum. No, I'm not seeing the well, either I'm going crazy or things are flipping around a lot. But about 6 months ago, maybe not even that long ago, when I saw the flag change, there was a big spiel about how Hawaii was more heavily influenced by Britain for quite some time, and then later flipped over to the USA, and that's why they had the Brit flag on there. All right, let me see if I can just find Britain real quick here. Britain. Whoop, spell it right. All right, England maybe? There's hardly anything on here about England, Britain. No, nothing. All right, well, this just goes to show you can't say anything without checking it. Yeah, nope. Nope, it's not in here now. Well, keep an eye on that, though, because I swear there was a big spiel about how Britain was the main influence for most of their influence with their history with Europe and America. It was Britain that was the main, they were the colonizers. That's still there because it was a British guy who first made contact. But they were very close with Britain for a long time until the end, for a while. So it looks like our influence is back now. But that tripped me out when I read it, and I read it a couple times. The Emmy's making me crazy sometimes. I'm not sure the reality world we ever remember was ever real. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just a storyline and the stories can change. I don't know. I mean, is each timeline that we lived in, were there really people living every story that we read? Or is it just a story? I don't know. I spent a lot of time wondering about that, though. Red tide, new animals, body changes, map changes. Corruption, earthquakes. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I remember Britain having nothing to do with Hawaii, but even in this current timeline, I guess a British guy discovered it. So that was interesting. Let me go way back there. First settlements, religion. Anyway, it takes me forever to read that big long article, so. All right. Anyway, I gotta go. It's late. Yeah, the Emmy is protecting us, saving us from lots of disaster. Yes, I have to agree with that. People always read all that stuff in the Bible, and it said, mountains will move and waters will fill and all those things. And I think we always assumed that would mean massive disaster, death, and destruction. But no, apparently it all can happen with you being just fine, the economy not being disrupted, and everything clacking along like normal. So I think that was the mistake. We made a lot of assumptions about how things would have to happen, and that didn't happen. But, a lot of that end times Bible stuff is happening. It's just not happening the way that we assumed. So I think if, there's got to be something protecting us, because there's no way that all these things could happen and us be fine unless there was some kind of grand plan behind it. Grizzly bears in Mexico. That's interesting. I don't think it will surprise me. Just lately, they've been talking about them dipping down into California. But the animals are spreading all over. Oh, the Mexican grizzly bear. So they have their own bear. Oh, it's an extinct population of grizzly bear. All right, so they don't have those. Do black bears live in Mexico? Yes, there are bears in Mexico. Yes, there are bears in Mexico. It's very extinct. This population is in Chihuahua, Coahuila, and blah, blah. There are black... What? Okay, how can it be living there and be extinct? The extinct California grizzly bear extended slightly south to Baja California. We did not have a California grizzly bear. That's baloney's. That I know we did not have. The Mexican grizzly bear is presumed extinct. And Mexico does have black bears. Okay, presumed extinct. I wouldn't be surprised if the Mexican grizzly bear showed up again eventually. They have black bears. All right, so I think we'll get... we did not have black bears down there. Black bears live in the forest. Mexico's a freaking desert. Black bears don't live in the jungle. They don't live in the tropics, but I guess they do now. All right. I'm really leaving now. Yeah, presumed. Okay, I will look. I know. Presumed. Where did it say that? I know I saw it. Darn it, I saw presumed. Where did it go? There. Let's check it out. When were they last seen? I bet you it's not that long ago if they're using the presumed word. Many people may think grizzly bears are vicious, but they've gotten a bad rap. They're pretty vicious guys, last I checked. At one time, scientists thought that brown bears and grizzly bears were separate species, but today they're considered the same species. Nope, never heard of that. Once upon a time, in the not-so-distant past, a subspecies of brown bears called Mexican grizzly bears lived in the southwestern USA and parts of Mexico. Smaller than their counterparts in Canada and northern United States, in the early 1960s, a Mexican rancher began a campaign to eradicate the bears. Due to the cattleman's effort, the Mexican grizzly was probably extinct in 1964. Is the Mexican grizzly really extinct? It is presumed to be so, although the brown bear species continues to thrive in parts of North America, Europe, and Asia. Europe and Asia? You guys have bears? I'm a little suspicious on that one. Brown bears in Europe and Asia, huh? Anyways, so 1960s... 1960s is the last sighting, supposedly. But I never heard of those, and I've looked into the bear thing before. There's so many new bears, it's ridiculous anyways. So anyways, wouldn't be surprised if that one came back. All right, I'm totally spacing out here. Says we can move mountains, Julie Holcomb. Yes, in the Bible it says if you have faith, you can move mountains. So, what do they mean by faith exactly? That's an interesting question. Britain had bears before the Dark Ages. Well, I guess Europe has bears now. Shari D. Too many changes. Once a week is not enough. You know, last week it was fine. I hardly had any, and I was done early. So it just depends. A lot of it depends on how much energy I have, because when I stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, it kind of screws up the next day. So if I feel real spry, I'll add one in, especially if they're really stacking up. But it's going to depend a lot on how I feel. QP, I'm like Ma now with the long goodbyes. Well, you guys keep saying interesting stuff right at the end. So it's your fault. I'm blaming it on you guys. All right. I'm really, actually, honest Injun, going to say goodbye now. So that was a 26-minute goodbye. So, yeah, I admit it. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.